trumpet. Who needs you? That's what we're talking about today on Crown Jewels. Next. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Project's Crown Jewels. I am your host, PLD, and this, of course, is the podcast where I take you on a journey through the Queen catalog, the Brian May catalog, the Freddie Mercury catalog, Roger Taylor's catalog, and even John Deacon's small solo catalog, kind of. I don't even know if you can call it a catalog, really, but either way, we'll go through it. We'll go through every song, every version of every song, and figure out which is the best version or the crown jewel of each song. We'll slide it into the ultimate playlist, or one of the ultimate playlists we are developing. And I'll give you history, some notes, some quotes. I'll even see if the song will slide into my top 10 Queen-related tracks of all time, an ongoing list I'm keeping as I get through this podcast. I got to tell you, it's already hard to crack in there. It's already hard to crack in there. All the top 10 are filled by songs that are 10.5 out of 11 or higher. They're all 10.5 or 11 at this point. If you're not at 10.5, get out. You don't fit. You don't belong. Not to shun you. It might be a good song, girls. I don't want you to feel bad about yourself. I'll let you know if you should feel bad about yourself. I don't know. I'm in a kind of a mood today, guys. I hope you can stick with me. All right. This week's track, Who Needs You? For the new News of the World album. This one was written by John Deacon. Features Freddie Mercury on lead and backing vocals, and of course the cowbell. Brian May on acoustic and electric guitars, as well as the maracas. John Deacon on acoustic guitar. No bass. Roger Taylor on drums. That's right. There's no bass in the song at all. John basically uses the acoustic guitar as the, quote, bass of the instruments, basically the basis of the song. Brian adds some acoustic lead and electric over it. Quickly, Brian actually said on his website declaratively in 2011 that he played all the lead work, while John played the rhythm guitar. Well, last week I said that this is Queen approaching reggae, and it pretty much is approaching reggae. I mean, it's not, I don't want to be blasphemic and call it out and out reggae, because it's not, but it's definitely Queen's version of reggae. Basically an acoustic guitar, though, as a part of the rhythm instead of some of the more typical reggae tones, as it were. This is an interesting song, though. Definitely an interesting song, especially the second John Deacon track on the album. The band never did get to play this live, and that actually makes a lot of sense. This isn't a great live atmosphere. This isn't a great track for a live setting, especially as Queen do performances. If Queen were ever to have done a unplugged set or something like that, could have fit into that perhaps. Or maybe you could slide into the acoustic middle section with Love of My Life in 39 and that kind of stuff. But it really isn't meant to be in a Queen set like that. Of course, the best way I can tell you about the song is let the boys tell you about it specifically. A couple of different quotes. We do have Roger in EMI Italy in 1977 called it an absolute contrast with the rest of the album, a different side of Queen, a very laid-back song with a bit of calypso influence. People will think they're on a beach in Tahiti or whatever. It's one of John's. I'd say it's quite relaxed and light. Brian May talked to Circus in 1978, talking about the album as a whole, and specifically then about Who Needs You. Our separate identities do come to the fore in this album, on which every cut is completely different from the one before it. There's no concept at all. Apart from each having contributed 2 tracks to the album, Roger and John have been much more involved in the playing. Roger plays rhythm guitar in some of his cuts, which makes sense because he had a better idea of how he wanted it to go. John plays acoustic guitar on one of his as well. I played maracas on it. While we may not do it that way on stage in the studio, it just makes more sense. Well, all right, we got 2 tracks to listen to this week. I don't know if I didn't mention that before. 2 tracks to listen to this week. We do have the album version, News of the World 1977, and then the acoustic take, which was released on the 2017 News of the World box set. It's an earlier version of the track. Basically, the acoustic take is not like a retake of the final version. It seems to be just an earlier version where the band was still figuring things out. But we're going to listen to both of them today. And then, of course, like usual, we're going to come back. I'll rank the 2 and pick which one is the crown jewel or best version. How do we listen? Well, I don't want to get struck or anything like that or deal with editing or anything as far as that goes. I just don't deal with that stuff. So what we do is, and you look in the show notes, I have a Google Doc in there for you to click onto. It'll take you to links to YouTube. So when I direct you to, we'll pause this podcast here, click on the link for whatever version we're listening to, listen to it, come back, I'll talk about it, and we'll go through the next until we are done. So let's get right to it. Again, open the show notes below, click on that link for the album version, come back, and we will talk about it. And there we have it. That's the album version. Like I said, very different than a style that Queen has done before. But that's typical of a Queen. It's almost like that is a style that Queen has done now. Or doing a song that's is a style they haven't done before is the most Queen thing they can do. I definitely feel what Roger's saying about the calypso feel. I love the percussion. That Freddie's cowbell is spot on. I can see Christopher Walken saying, more cowbell, more cowbell. The acoustic guitar being the bass actually works very well in this song because it's a very relaxed feel. There's almost sometimes a little bit of a, I don't want to say campfire feel because there's a lot going on with electric overdubs and things of that nature. It just feels like the band like, kind of sitting together like a circle, kind of like doing this song together. Freddie got the maracas, Brian got the maracas, Freddie with the little cowbell, John a little acoustic, maybe Roger playing a little drum. Like it feels like it's just that kind of like really tight knit kind of thing instead of the expansive Queen sound that we usually get. I do like Brian's lead playing as well. I think he made a choice. I feel like he made a choice. I don't know if it was in John's initial estimation, but he kind of adds partly through the song, he adds this like electric guitar, and not as a big lead or anything like that, but it's like this warm fuzz that kind of like just makes a nice little bed work to the song, kind of envelops the song. It's kind of like a sonic mattress, honestly, if that's the way I look at it. It's not like taking over, but there's this kind of like little buzz that adds to the song, adds to the texture. I really do like that. Of course, his acoustic leads are pretty amazing as well. Freddie's voice is spot on for this. It's very easygoing. It's not Freddie tends to be a little more intense a lot of times. He tries to go for those high notes, or he tries to go for that like really rock feel, really emotional. It's more easygoing, sweet. I love that his lead vocal is really only on one side. I love how Freddie band in general use the headphones and panning and the stereo sound to really kind of give you different attacks on your ears. I like the harmonies, of course, are in the middle, of course, as well. So it's more of an enveloping sound as well. I like the guitar solo, a little guitar solo in the middle. It's a nice little touch. I do think that I love the additional Freddie ad libs that are put in there, as only he can do. There's at one point they get to that one step forward and two steps back. To slight burst of intensity there. And it's not like intensity. I don't even know if intensity is the right word, to be honest with you. It's not like all of a sudden it's like, shaking and like really intense, but it has this kind of sense of, I don't know, like it feels like not you're rushing, but you're kind of like you have more there's something more going for it. As it started off very laid back, there's more of like you're leaning forward a little bit, trying to get something, trying to get somewhere, but not so much that it's over the top. It's just kind of like nice little texture added to the song. I do love reaching out for the helping hand. The harmonies on that adds a nice little texture. Almost brings you back down, lets you go into the ending, which has a nice little electric lay down at the end. Guitar work at the end that kind of almost like pulling the blanket up. It's time to go to sleep now. Overall, it's a great little track. I love getting these kind of tracks from Queen because that's one of my favorite things about the band. You have a song, We'll Rock You. You have a funk song like Get Down, Make Love. A rock song like Fight from the Inside, a blues track from Brian, a piano ballad, and all of a sudden this way, it's something out of left field, but it's all on the same album. So give it to me anytime. So, all right, let's move forward. Next up, we have the acoustic take. So again, go to that Google Doc, click on that link, come back, and we shall talk about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. There you have the acoustic version of the track. Much like I said, you have opening chatter from the studio. It's obviously an earlier version, a demo type of version, or at least an exploration of what the song will eventually sound like. There's no intention for this to be the final take. I do like getting the chatter. They did this on the box set for a lot of the alternate versions. We get to hear a little bit of the boys in the studio, which It's always fun. It's always fun to have that kind of archaeological expedition, so to speak. It's not as fun when you're trying to get a song for a playlist because you don't want to have this come up shuffle and you hear them talking about it before they go into it too much. Kind of ruins a little bit of the flow sometimes. So that being said, I'd probably want to cut out the stuff as far as just getting a solid version of the song. But I do love hearing the band. And you feel like you're in the studio with them, especially as you to hear John kind of tell him how he's going to begin it. Freddie offering something else, they go with that, and that's how they actually end up doing it on the record, which is cool. You have the story at the end, hearing John basically asking how it goes, and Freddie being lovely. It just feels fun to be in the studio with them for a moment. Obviously, this is take two. You heard that from the engineer. John counts in and plays a much subtler acoustic. I don't know if it's like he hasn't just. I don't know if it's a difference between how it feels with Brian's lead acoustic over the top of it, or if it's just actually much more subtle and not as complicated as it gets. I don't know. I can't tell because sometimes it gets buried in the mix a little bit. But what's cool about it is that it feels like much more of like that campfire feel I was talking about, or like a just sitting around a circle. You don't hear Rodgers and even drums. It's just Brian's maracas are basically the rhythm. You hear John with the acoustic. It's a very subtle, laid back version, especially without Brian's electric guitar. That specifically makes it feel even more like that kind of like just almost a one take as you're going along with it. I do love Freddie's feeling his way through the little words at this point. Lyrics are not done. Some lyrics are different than the final version. And he really does some, DDs and things like that as he goes through. He's just obviously he's not doing a final vocal take, so I don't feel like he's really pushing for any kind of real performance out of it. It's more of like we'll explore this together, which makes for an interesting sound, especially for this track, which is more of a laid back track anyway, right? So at the end of the day, it's a very cool version to listen to. I'm so glad we got this box set to get this kind of alternate take. I hope we get more of this as the years go on, as the band starts going more and more into their twilight and their less active stages. Let's get some more of this alternate stuff from the vaults while we can. So, alrighty, now it's time to rank and rate the tracks. Find the crown jewel, see if it slides into my top 10 Queen tracks of all time. Easy to rank this week, easy to rate this week. Only have two versions to rank, and I'm not going to draw it out any further. Acoustic take, it's great to have, great to listen to, a great curio. But as far as a crown jewel best version, I want a complete version, a full-on version, at least definitely more than the acoustic take was for sure. So the acoustic take will come in number 2, and therefore the crown jewel this week is the album version from News of the World, the main album version. Sometimes it's just that easy. It's much harder when we have all those live versions that it's to go through. This very easy. All right, now it's time to rate the song out of 11 because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects. So out of the norm for a Queen track, so fun, but it's not one I think I would choose to go back to all the time. I guess I've always said I love Queen for doing all these kind of weird out of style kind of tracks or out of genre kind of tracks. But quite often, I still love the basis of the rock band Queen and the actual rock band Queen. So I love hearing these. But I never usually take these as like the track I would go to. I'm not going to put this on. Let's listen to Who Needs You. When it comes up in a shuffle or if it comes up on the album, I love it. I'm happy to hear it and happy to bop along to it. So with that in mind, I'll give this a solid 7. A solid 7 out of 11. Of course, that means it does not slide into my top 10, as I mentioned that before. Everything in the top 10 is at 10.5 and higher at this point. So you got to be really cream of the crop to make it into my top 10 now. But it doesn't mean it's not a well-loved listen. All right, next week we got a real epic of a rocker written by Brian May. It's late, near the close of the News of the World album. This is an epic in 3 acts. That's what I'll say here. But it's definitely a fun listen. I'll tell you that for sure. A little more to listen to. We have a couple live versions from that. We do have obviously some alternate takes as well, so it'll be a little bit more intricate than Who Needs You. But that's for next week, not this week. This week, I want to thank you guys for listening so much. I want you to, if this is your first time here, hit that like, hit subscribe. I want to go to my main YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe there. If you're listening on audio, it's all the same channel. So everywhere you go, like, subscribe, comment, give us feedback, share, let us know. I mean, I'm trying to build the channels out slowly but surely. I know I don't do a lot of current stuff, so I'm not going to be hipped to the young viewers a lot of times, but I hope hopefully I find a niche audience that really likes what I do. I feel like I am finding that niche audience, and I really appreciate having you guys aboard. Yeah, if you want to help the channel out even further, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/PLD projects. I've got a great Facebook chat there. I do some extra content for them. I'm trying to figure out still, mentioned this a few times, trying to figure out a way to do some extra Queen content. So a lot of my extra content is TV and movies. I do Star Wars stuff. I do a sci-fi show from the 80s. I do Doctor Who. I do horror franchises and things like that with my two mediocre white dudes on film podcast. I do figure out some extra content for Queen. It hasn't been forthcoming yet. Doesn't mean it'll never happen. Hopefully we can figure out something. Have an idea, let me know. Let me know what you think. And we'll get some other stuff on this channel as well. Have some other more Queen remixes I can throw up there. I know mostly I think a lot of you came for the Queen remixes I had thrown up before. Again, I'm not a great remixer. I think I'm a better idea man. Technical side of things, I'm not that great. But I think you can get a lot of ideas of what I'm going for. And ideas are the main thing. So yeah, just so you know, for Patreon, I do want to shout out a few Patreon users as part of the perks. Austin Goodell, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman. Those are the top guys. I really couldn't do this without you or the rest of my Patreon crew. I love all you guys so much. I really appreciate you. Really help keep the lights on for me and to help me continue to make this content. So, but that's it for this week. Who needs you? I need you. Come back next week. Don't be late. It's late. Next time on Crown Jewels. Bye now.